Hello and good evening to everyone who have joined from the East, and good morning to everyone who has joined from the West. I am Dr. Matthew, the MR Safety Ambassador and AsiaSafer, and we are having the third webinar in the series of MR Safety Call for Action, which we have initiated and under AOSR and AsiaSafe. And the third webinar today will be dealing with the third and fourth points in the call for action, the 10-point call for action which we published in the Japanese Journal of Radiology in January. It is essential for everyone to understand not just listening to webinars is enough. What we want from these webinars is to drive action. So we have been, AsiaSafe and AOSR have been talking about MR safety for the last 4 to 5 years. And I have a question for each one of you. Do you have an MR safety committee in your institution? Do you have an MR MD appointed to look into the MR safety matters? And do you have an MR safety officer in your institution? If not, the actions that should have been initiated from the webinars that we have conducted, the surveys that we have conducted, and whole sort of series of actions, series of activities that we did have gone in vain. So it is time for each one of you who have logged in to ask yourself this question: do I have an MR safety committee in my institution? Do I have an MR MD, a radiologist appointed as an MR medical director, and a technologist appointed as an MR safety officer? That's the first step that we want all of you to do. Before we go into the proper academic session here, I have to introduce my co-moderator, Dr. P.K. Joyce Chan from the Hong Kong Children's Hospital, a consultant radiologist who will be with me to co-moderate this session. To welcome the delegates here and to give the opening remarks, the Honorary Secretary General of Asian Oceanian Society of Radiology, Professor Dr. Hemant Patel is here with us, and we welcome Professor Dr. Hemant Patel. Professor Dr. Hemant Patel is a dynamic radiologist and a visionary from Indian Radiological and Imaging Association who have made a lot of difference to the field of radiology in India. And we welcome you, Dr. Hemant Patel, to give this opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all dear delegates, and really excited to be part of this seminar. Rijo, thank you for a kind invitation, and your passion for MR safety is so much palpable in India, Asia, and beyond. And PK Joyce, thank you. Thank you for organizing this wonderful seminar. Today we are also having President of AOSR, Professor Chamari, and she is the driving force to initiate such kind of so many new activities. We are taking proud as a AOSR when we are taking the lead, especially for the MR safety, and significantly contributing at the global level. Now, most of the member country societies, they are very much know about the MR safety, their measures. Evelyn is also here, and she has also constantly pushed this mission continuously over so many years. And at a result, now we are organizing such kind of webinars on a very regular basis. Interestingly, many companies, they have also come out with the special tools which can augment and enhance the MR safety, which is, very welcome step for this entire mission. And today we are going to discuss about whether this department is having MR safety separate committee or not. If so, whether which radiologist should take lead and he can become the director of that MR safety committee. We also, it's a more kind of the comprehensive model for the MR safety, and there is role of everyone. So we have to also announce some technologists as the chief, just like the RSO, which is the radiation safety officer. Here we are having the MR safety officer. So, so today we'll get all insights from our esteemed speakers, and we are lucky to have today Professor Ma Theresa from Philippines, and ShaoJin from Singapore. We all are excited to hear to them, and over to today's speaker. And once again, thank you very much. And I'm sure you will enjoy listening to their lectures. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Hemant Patel, the Honorary Secretary of Asian Oceanian Society of Radiology. I have an appeal to all the Asian Oceanian Society leadership to make an appeal to all the national society leaders to bring MR safety in their conferences and the radiology curriculum of their countries. And that is one step that we hope to have from the call for action that leads to actions, real actions on the countryside. So I hope this can be included in the AsiaSafe deliberations, AOSR deliberations, and the national society leaderships can include MR safety in all their national and regional conferences. Thank you very much, sir. Now I have to hand it over to my co-moderator, Dr. P.K. Joyce Chan, who will take over the academic session from here. We'll introduce the two speakers and will take it forward from me here. Over to you, Dr. Joyce.
Thank you very much, Dr. Matthew. And also thank you, Dr. Patel, for the meaningful opening remarks. I'm Joyce from Hong Kong. I'm a pediatric radiologist at Hong Kong Children's Hospital. So any sort of safety issue is very close to my heart because I'm a pediatric radiologist. And I agree, and I'm honored to be one of the AsiaSafers to promote and call for action in MR safety. So it gives me great honor to introduce to you the two esteemed speakers of the night. I'll introduce them one by one. Our first speaker, shall we bring up the CV slides? Our first speaker is Dr. Ma Theresa Buenaflor. She's a consultant radiologist working in breast imaging at Women's Center, Healthway Cancer Center at Cancer Care Hospital, Philippines. She's a speaker, an educator, and she conducts peer-to-peer training in the SEA region for functional breast imaging and also in the field of artificial intelligence and breast intervention. She's also a peer reviewer of the Philippine Journal of Pathology 2025. She's also a mentor under the Breast Imaging Society of India mentorship program, Meta University, from 2022 to 2023. She was also our esteemed speaker on MR safety, AOSR December 2021, and she will be our first speaker of today. And our next speaker is Dr. ShaoJin Ong. Shall we switch to the second CV slide, please? Thank you.
Sarita, can you show the second slide?
Yes, sir, showing, sir.
So our second speaker of the night is Dr. ShaoJin Ong. He's a senior consultant radiologist. He's the head of the Division of Interventional Radiology of National University Hospital, Singapore. And he was also former NIHR Academic Clinical Fellow of the University of Cambridge. He has done various esteemed studies to test the limits of MRI projectile safety. So he is the perfect person to talk to us tonight. One of his studies was published in the BMJ, was a prospective in situ experimental study called Common Healthcare Related Instruments Subjected to Magnetic Attraction Study, the Christmas study. Another study was done under the PMC. It looked into the local coinage and hospital equipment index, which is to test the projectile distance of Singapore coinage and also healthcare related equipments in a 3D magnetic resonance imaging scanner. So that's with the introduction of the two speakers, without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Theresa to give the first talk.
Dr. Joyce, I've got a few announcements to make. One, for the delegates who have joined in, please sign in into the chat box and put your questions there. We will be answering that questions at the end of the session. And at the end of the session, we will be showing the QR code for your feedbacks, and that scanning that feedbacks and QR code will make you eligible for the participation certificate. So please don't forget that. For all delegates, please do sign in the chat box and put all your questions there. We will get the answers from the experts at the end of the session. Over to you, Dr. Ma Theresa Buenaflor.
Thank you, Dr. Joyce and Dr. Rijo, for this for the wonderful introduction. I'm very, very honored to join you again for the MR Safety series of webinars. So actually, when Dr. Evelyn asked me initially, and your question earlier about asking ourselves if we do have these safety measures, do we have the MR safety officer and all that, made us take a real hard look about our setup. And then I think when, after some discussion with our radiology department and also with the administration, then I think, it's just a small step, but I think it's getting there to what you want from, from all these discussions to actually, being proactive to be serious about this. So I would just like to start with my slide. So this is just to recap for those who are new to the AOSR safety webinar. So again, as Dr. Regis said, they came out with a paper that has a 10-point step in how to enhance the safety and the promotion of MR safety in the Asian Oceanic region. So one of these is what my topic is on public awareness. So we know the drivers for the global diagnostic imaging services market, the growth of that is a combination of we're seeing a rise in the prevalence of chronic diseases. There's also an increasing demand for early diagnosis. We also have given that we also have very fast advancements in imaging technology, as well as we're seeing now an expansion of the healthcare infrastructures, especially in emerging economies. So when you take all of that into perspective, we're seeing that in the Asia Pacific market, it is becoming as an emerging lucrative diagnostic imaging services market. So you're seeing, on one hand, rapid economic development, as well as growing healthcare expenditure, and also heightened patient awareness. And with given all of these things are happening, we're also seeing a rise of diagnostic imaging services offering MR, CT, and all of that used to traditionally be just within the realm of hospital-based institutions. So given the having separate practices both in outpatient centers and in hospitals, you can see the differences that when administration, you're treading the line between you want to accommodate the volume, but not at the expense of the safety of the patient. So this is very timely that we need to really discuss that and educate the public that MR is a good tool. It's a very good tool, but it comes with its risks if we don't know what those risks are, right? So this is this is exactly what the paper wants to underscore, is that you want to create a culture of safety, accountability, and responsibility. And I've showed this in the first one of the early MRI safety webinars that in the recent past years we've had, we should never have had events which are attributed to projectile objects. Fortunately, these are just the few that have happened, and fortunately, none has happened after 2021 that we didn't hear about in the news. So is it really enough that we're just showing these images of projectile images, right, for these machines? So sometimes it can turn out to be a meme, and people think, oh, it's not something that tells you that if you give them this image, do they really understand the gravity of the situation when you're just given images like this? So how do we enhance public awareness and education? So in the paper, as discussed, we need to raise awareness among the patients, families, and public. We have to include the patients as part of the stakeholders, to organize and host regular awareness sessions, and to also have a dialogue session or sessions with all the stakeholders. More or less, it's ideal to have them in a formalized committee and committees, so that you can have interactive feedback and constructive development for safer MRI practices. And one very important point that was stated there is how do we leverage social media to be able to reach more, and also to provide accessible educational awareness resources for all stakeholders, given the diversity of our setting in the region. So when I was thinking about the increasing public awareness, we know that if we're going to start from scratch, it might be a bit challenging because we have all different practices and all that. So there are available awareness materials that you can download, and one of the proposed ideas that we are initiating in our institution is that we can play these as like loops in the waiting areas and all that. Aside from that, to create a repository of all of these awareness materials so that they can be made available. You can share them on social media. Same materials you can also upload on social media, or eventually that the AsiaSafe can have templates that can easily be translated to different languages, local dialects. So I think in a sense that would accelerate the dissemination of these awareness materials. So some examples of these can also be found. Some are free, some are not free, some you have to pay. So I think part of it is if we can also get volunteers to be able to design for this and all that. I think that would also be a good project so that it's just a common set of awareness materials. So why screening is important. And what is good about this is that it's very specific about these items that people think that is not they're not serious, but these actually, if you look at the projectile events for this particular study, is that people have scissors, cane walkers, hairpin, knives or lighters. So when they walk in and then they're not aware that these can actually cause projectile events, then they're not they think it is something that is not it's something just like a normal thing that they don't think about. So also for patients, this is a very good MRI safety poster that I also found, because even medicine patches can actually produce can produce some thermal burns and all that. So we think about, we have to have a very very thorough and also very specific for some countries, because not all would be have or don't have that medicine patches, or we don't even think about microbladed eyebrows. But these are the newer things that actually can contribute to thermal burns and all of these other complications associated with MRI. So these posters are also available that people can use, so that when your MRI suites or your MRI waiting areas do not have these are available as PDF and as poster size that you can print out. Or if you have TVs that are in the waiting areas, you can actually flash these, so that it's something to remind the staff and the patients about keeping everybody safe. And once you have that, I think it makes people more aware of what they can contribute to making the working environment safe for everyone. Now, for educational opportunities and social awareness when we look at social media. So there was this article that what is the impact of social media. So when we look at the educational opportunities and social awareness, social media is a very good tool. It has its pros and cons, but one of those very good points is that it's making learning accessible. It is free, it has a global reach, and it can overcome language barriers. For social awareness, this is a good platform for initiatives and advocacy efforts on a local and on a worldwide scale. And you can actually, can have a dynamic or discuss solutions to the social issues that we are currently dealing with. And when we look at the trend of the amount of time people are spending in using the internet on the mobile phone. So actually, the ones in Southeast Asia are the ones that are very prolific on the internet. So I think it is a good way to, if they're putting that much time, I think, trying to educate them would be much faster, given that they're very, very tech savvy or internet savvy. And another interesting and innovative approach that I came across is actually, how do we gamify MR safety? And actually, this was used already in the National Neuroscience Institute in Singapore. So it uses a 3D immersive learning so that it reinforces the essential safety concepts through active learning. So this actually closes the gap between the knowledge and the application. So it's like a game that, when you press on something, if you make a wrong choice, then that tells you that this is the consequence for doing that. And this actually was a winner in some of these conferences. So this is one idea. If there are vendors or other vendors that are willing to support in this initiative, something similar can be done, so that they can create something like this, and it can be used as a common thing that can be applied in several countries at the same time, and can be used even for those who are still students or just taking up rad techs. Non-medical personnels, we have to be very mindful, because you have janitorial services, you also have ancillary services that go in and out of the MRI department. And lastly, one of the more, I think, important aspect about safety is that we have to be strong on creating or having advocates. So I think this is a very good way to initiate it. The safety advocates in the US now actually have a certification. So they look at education and training, what are the best practices, standardization, and raising awareness. And all of these actually boils down to creating risk mitigation for our patients. And with that, let's stay smart. So that means keeping safe in MRI. And this is this is the end of my lecture. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Buenaflor, for the interesting presentation. I'm particularly intrigued by the gamifying MRI safety education. I find it really, really interesting. So we will leave the Q&A towards the end of the talks in the interest of time. I would just like to take the opportunity to remind all participants to please sign into the chat function on the Vindocto platform, because from there, even if you don't have a question, you would see comments made by others. And also we will be sharing links through the chat platform as well. So please sign into the chat box. Okay, with that, without further ado, let's welcome our second speaker, Dr. Ong, to give his talk.
Sir, please
Terribly sorry, I was muted. Sorry. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. Thank you very much for taking your time out to listen to my talk on encouraging multidisciplinary collaboration on MRI safety. I'm ShaoJin, and I'm a diagnostic and an interventional radiologist based in the National University Hospital. So as an interventional radiologist, part of our training is always plan and think what could possibly go wrong. Sorry. Sorry, there's a bit of a lag. Okay, so we always tell our patients that MRI is very safe. Nowadays, in the internet age, patients often seek their second medical opinion from the internet. And thankfully, Dr. ChatGPT and Professor Google AI agrees MRI is very safe. So in terms of MRI safety, we have a multitude of safety protocols at scanners and in the various departments. There's zone differentiations, warning signs, checklists, and more checklists, databases, physical monitors, and hospital policies to help us. Zone differentiation, we have zone 1, which is a public area such as a waiting room, where zone 2, transition zone between the public and the control zone, where patients may or may not be supervised by MR personnel. Zone 3, where to get there, you have to be supervised by MR personnel, and this is usually where the 5 Gauss line is at. And zone 4 in the magnet room requiring very, very strict access control and direct supervision by MR trained personnel. The scan room door usually have to be locked when it's unattended. Warning signs, we've all seen them. There are a multitude of warning signs and label all over MRI scanning suites. Before entry to the scanner room, some are bigger, some are smaller. This is one of our scanners, our newer scanners. You would think that with so much labels and warning signs, it should work. That's how we would think logically. But when patients turn up, they might be overwhelmed by the amount of information provided and would not be able to process it before walking straight through without checking. Warning fatigue is also a real thing. Patients that come quite often that have a lot of MRI experience may be desensitized to all this extensive label and choose to ignore them. Checklists, we all have checklists. I think we've gone through the many times. Checklists have to be filled by clinical teams when requesting a scan. But one thing we've noticed, the patient might have an interval procedure or have an interval incident between the time the checklist was initially filled and the time of the examination before. So that's why sometimes second screening checklists also need to be performed by the MRI radiographer before bringing the patient into zone 3 and 4. Databases of what could go wrong, what has gone wrong, and what would go wrong. You have your MOD database, the manufacturer and user facility device experience database held and hosted by the FDA to record all MRI incidents and equipment issues. One of the things to remember about this is voluntary reporting after incidents. Then you have MRISafety.com. It's a lovely extended database about medical implants and equipment, and it lists what is safe, what is conditional, or what is completely unsafe in an MRI scanner. You have your physical monitors. You can range from your handheld ferromagnetic devices to sweep patients, as well as door installation of FMDs to access for any ferrous metallic materials that may be accidentally brought into the room. I'm sure most places would have some of these available, but the question is, when push and when busy, how often do your scanning team use this on patients on a day-to-day basis? Then what's important is also hospital policies. Hospital policies have to be written up to support safe MRI practices and need to be reviewed frequently between 1 to 5 years. So despite all this, why do bad things still happen? So bad things usually fall into 3 categories: projectile, heating, and embedded material. So projectile, everybody has seen a variety of these recently, I'm sure. The first is a bit attracted to MRI scanner in California, trapping and severely injuring a nurse in that incident. Second image is a wheelchair being attracted into the scanner ball. The third image is a heavy-duty floor mop sucked into the scanner when a cleaner tried to mop the floor inside zone 4 with the cleaning machine. They were trying to be helpful, but I think more problems were caused. The fourth image, we don't actually have an image. This is a report. It's been reported quite widely. A lawyer insisted on going to the zone 4 to accompany his mother who was having a scan, and the scanner triggered his gun, which he had concealed, and he managed to shoot himself. Bad things still happen. Burns. Tattoo burns is the first one. Some of the older tattoo ink contains iron oxide components to give it its black and brown colors. So these would cause an heating effect and will cause burns. Also, prison tattoos where the sources of ink obtained are slightly unclear might contain metallic particles. The bottom left image is an image of a burn from an ECG monitoring pad. The next one is a linear burn along a path of a cable touching the patient's abdomen. The finger is a full thickness burn secondary to a pulse oximeter heating up. And the latest one from less than a week ago, a man in Singapore decided to have his MRI scan of his elbow arm fracture under sedation, and he woke up with around 2 centimeter burn. So embedded materials, they may or may not cause injuries. These are the ones that have been reported and have failed screening. These are higher risk in patients with intellectual disabilities where they may not fully comprehend the implications. In our case, we have a similar one. It's not fully embedded. So during COVID, for those of you who are aware, all Singaporeans were given a Trace Together token. So it is basically like a government-issued Apple AirTag. It is meant for contact tracing for COVID, and the people and the population were instructed to keep it on them whenever they leave the house. We had a patient, elderly patient, hiding hers under a gown, and it was not picked up until she got into the scanner. It did not fly as a projectile. She has managed to hang on to it quietly, but was only discovered when there was a huge blooming artifact during the scalp imaging. In this particular incident, all protocols were appropriately followed, but as the Trace Together token was not part of the checklist, it was missed. And the patient never admitted to having the Trace Together token at the time because she thought since the whole thing was fully sealed and plastic casing, it was something plastic that the government told her to carry along with her all the time. So next slide, we also have this happen to somewhere in Singapore. So history provided new malignancy seen on CT abdo-pelvis, progressive memory impairment, query brain mets. The background history of this elderly patient fit and well until initial admission for bloatedness with no previous imaging. Primary screening ultrasound demonstrated liver lesion. A CT of the thorax, abdomen, and pelvis show extensive metastasis within the abdomen and lung. Can anyone hazard a guess what this might be? So this is Singapore, yeah, where gun laws are relatively strict. Patient did not complain of anything, but we pulled him straight out and we sent him for a CT hit. And this is the image we got on the CT hit. It looks like he's managed to have a bullet locked in his occiput, and nobody, including his family, were aware of this history. So things do get through, no matter how many safety layers we have. So who is actually responsible for MRI safety? Is it the radiographer, the patient, the physicist, hospital administration, service engineer, the radiologist, the housekeeper, the referring clinical team? And the correct answer is everyone. So in the call for action special report, encouraging multidisciplinary collaboration was one of the 10 key points raised, but these points are all overlapping. There's significant overlap between all of them. They are not mutually exclusive. Why multidisciplinary collaboration? It provides forums and discussions to facilitate sharing of problems, ideas, and innovative solutions with input from all stakeholders, allows to develop framework for quality improvement and to integrate feedback into existing practice. No point having feedback when you don't integrate into more safer practice. To have it as an inclusive approach to ensure both professional and public involvement. Feedback look to combine expertise and experience of various subgroups of individuals to maximize collective intelligence. So this is the Swiss cheese model of accident causation. By having the more disciplines collaborating to promote MRI safety in every single scan, the more defensive layers are present. Increasing the number of layers reduces the risk of a significant untoward incident. So MRI safety is therefore everyone's responsibility, and working together will synergistically reduce the risk of a negative outcome. So the people, when naming radiographers, what are they responsible for? They should execute a safe working procedure for MRI environment. They are our last line of defense, to be in a way. They need to ensure the implementation and the monitoring of appropriate measures to minimize risk to staff and patients, manage hazards posed by the MR equipment and monitoring the measures taken to protect against such hazards, and providing and ensuring provision of MR safety and education. So the news clip over here is regarding an MRI incident in a Swedish hospital. So a radiology nurse was actually seriously injured because he was wearing a weighted suit as part of exercise and weight loss. And when he walked past the MRI scanner, he was pulled in and crushed. He has made a full recovery, and now he's one of their biggest ambassadors for MRI safety. So other than the radiographer, the patient and the guardian also need to take some personal responsibility. They have to answer their questionnaire honestly, and if they're not sure, they're obliged to check with the radiographer. And if they feel anything is amiss, they need to alert the radiographer. We would really strongly want them to comply with hospital MRI safety protocols, such as changing to full gowns. We always have the odd patient that will insist, no, I'm just hanging my head, I'm not changing my trousers, I've got expensive stuff here. Oh no, these are just gym pants, I won't take it off, it's fine, there's no metal in it. They need to comply with hospital safety protocol. And some clothing can result in thermal burns due to small amount of metallic fibers such as silver fibers. Now it's quite well known, everybody says no Lululemon inside an MRI suite. Yes, but other than Lululemon, other clothing do have silver microthreads as well. These have existed since 2008. Some have stopped productions and sales, but we still might have some at home in our drawers. Myself, I know I do have some of these Marks and Spencer fresh feet with sanitized silver somewhere at home. The slide here you can see is a first degree, second degree burn on the buttocks of a patient who wore underpants with not knowingly with silver lining, silver threads. Other than patients, the referring clinical team takes some responsibility as well. They need to fill up the checklist diligently and honestly. I'm sure many of us come across junior doctors from the teams that would just try to rush a scan appointment through, and they would just do the tick boxes without doing their due diligence. The clinical team also need to know the indications for the scan. Does the patient really require an MRI examination? Does the examination require IV contrast? They have to adequately consent the patient of the risks and benefits. Does the procedure really require sedation? Sedation can increase the risk of undetected thermal injuries. And after I prepared this talk, there was that news report from last week of the patient that had a fracture of the arm that wanted an MRI and admission and sedation. And because he was sedated, the burn injury was too late. It was only found out on the next day. So the other group of people, physicists, they develop and implement safety protocols. They provide training to other healthcare professional and hospital members. They need to critically analyze data and provide safety updates. And they help with developing scanning protocols which may provide faster scans with better imaging, and they serve as MRI safety experts. So, but as medical professional, we were always told to look for statistical significance and correlations, check your literature, what's published, but are these always accurate? We always accept P less than 0.05 okay in papers. For example, in these two graphs, I have mod reports of incidents in MRI. And we can see that the P is less than 0.01 for both of them. But one of them correlates, the incidents in MRI correlates with the number of New York Times fiction bestsellers, and hydropower electricity generated in Brazil. So these are spurious correlation that sometimes get published out there in the literature. We need to tease out what is random correlation with an analytical mind, and physicists are some of our best and greatest allies on this aspect. Unless anybody can figure out how New York Times bestsellers and hydropower generated in Brazil can affect MRI incidents, I would be grateful if they could explain. Okay, so hospital administration, they also have a role to play. They need to provide relevant resources to facilitate training for all staff group that may interact or utilize the MRI facilities. They need to provide supportive environment for a no-fault culture to support reporting of near misses. Every near miss that's not reported may turn out to be the next actual incident. And it is known that near misses and incidents are severely underreported. Your engineer, your builder, your maintenance man, they do have the technical expertise to troubleshoot issues with MRI equipment and resolve complex safety concerns. Engineers regularly perform safety audits of MRI facilities and identify potential hazards. They maintain equipment to ensure that it functions optimally, especially the MRI door closure, which is often overlooked. I've inserted this particular image and the floor plan here. What's interesting is, this is why I put builder into part of it. The red line in the room is usually 100 Gauss. That's the projectile line. Ferromagnetic objects will become projectile from this line generally. Trust me, this is actually one of the, this picture was taken from one of our scanners. I have tested an IKEA armchair on this, and the armchair does start independent movement and acceleration towards the ball once half of it is past the red line. But then again, the builder's responsibility, how accurate is this 100 Gauss line? Is the builder drawing it accurately on the floor? Because in this case, I don't think so. Because it looks like the builder just took a line and took shortcuts and avoided the more tedious ovoid picture on the diagram from the equipment supplier to just draw a straight line on the side of the scanner. So these small things can add up. The housekeepers maintain cleanliness of the scanning facility as part of infection control. They need to use only appropriate cleaning equipment cleared for Zone 4. We need to ensure that the whole housekeeping team is on board and updated to protocol. And in a specific specifically in MRI, they need to avoid using temporary or locum staff where trained staff are not available due to holidays or sickness. The radiologists are the conduit between clinical teams and technical teams. They need to ensure the appropriate use of MRI resources and safety requirements and protocol are met, and they're ultimately responsible for patient safety. So 3 most common safety incidents: projectile burns, embedded objects. All of us and all the different work groups have our individual blind spots. But with multidisciplinary inputs and collaboration, hopefully the holes will not line up and we will all end up with a safe MRI procedure. So just to showcase some of the work that we have done, and looking at projectiles, we have a short video clip to show. This was planned for quite a long time and supposedly over-engineered with high-density foam and acrylic sheet panels for safety. But I guess I'll just play it and let you see what happens. So thank you very much for listening to me. That's the end of my talk.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ong, for the very comprehensive and educational talk. I really appreciate the alarming pictures. I think that's a very good pictorial representation of how aware of MRI safety we should all be. And I also very appreciate the message that MRI safety really is a responsibility of the entire team, but not 1 or 2 persons. I think that's really echoes with the call for action theme of today's webinar. Thank you very much for our two esteemed speaker. So now we come to the question and answer section. And from our chat box, we do have one question from Dr. Chamary, which is a question about public awareness. So with the diversity on education level in our region, do you think emphasizing on MR safety to public might scare patients away? If yes, how can we prevent this other side of the coin impact?
I think I don't think it would scare the patients away because when we go over these pros and cons of doing this with the patients, we're actually ensuring that we have their safety foremost in our minds, right? So that is part of why whenever when we deal with management and all that, I know you want to accommodate as much patients, but when you're skipping these essential, this is exactly what I'm saying. Don't wait for an event to happen. So that's when you start reacting and putting all of these safeguards in place. You could have put the safeguards in place to make sure that these do not happen. And one other thing that I'd also like to emphasize is that there are also some celebrities that I've had a whole body MRI, and then now people want to do whole body MRI because some celebrity said so. But the people just have a perception. If somebody who is influential, in a sense, they want to also do exactly the same thing because it's an aspirational thing, but they don't tell you about the risk, and the technology is different from what the typical MRI, what the patients will experience. So these things, I think it's high time. It's high time that with the proliferation of a lot more advanced, technologies and all that, we really need to be very proactive about educating our patients.
If you've seen a new movie that has been released, that the Final Destination Bloodlines, that shows the MR scanner that a person is being crushed into that, pulverized by that, and that has created a lot of scare all among the movie. Those who've seen those movies, and movies, of course, has got a larger, wider audience, and that has put the fear in the mind that, and at the same time, has created that awareness. MRI is something dangerous and need to be because right now for x-rays, for CT scanners, everyone has got that idea in the mind that this has got radiation and you cannot, should not go in without. For as far as MRI is concerned, that kind of awareness is still not there. So a little bit of overdrive on the fear element, because if you really want to put something into action, there are only three things to do. It's fear, greed, and vanity. So so a little bit of fear element that is brought in through the movies or through the social media. And my question here is, what about the role of social media influencers in the MR safety campaign for the general public?
I would think not to be putting down anybody, but I do not think that influencers would be the correct person to be able to drive this. I would think somebody, you need to have the background for it, right? And then the credibility to say, this is why we are doing this, because we care for your safety.
Right.
But not just somebody you can, oh, I'm just going to tell you about it's safe to do this and all that. And, just take my word for it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to happen if.
See, to involve the patients and their families in the MR safety campaign, I think your suggestion on that gamifying the MR suite, it has got a tremendous potential, I feel.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I think because it's something that people like play,
Yeah.
right? It engenders that it's fun, But once you also put that, we're trying to send a message here
Mm.
also, right? So I think starting them young, even with, those that are going into the medical field or health related, but it is also something that when we're training non-medical personnel, that they're also mindful that, hey, I need to make sure that as a janitor, anything that's metallic would have to be just beyond this particular zone. So something like that is, I think, also important.
I think definitely we need to think out of the box for ideas to reach out to the general public, especially not limiting the ourselves within doctors topic, talking amongst ourselves. That's why I asked this question on social media influence. If you look at the talks given by doctors, the viewerships, and the compare it with the social media influencers, there is a hell lot of a difference between the viewership. And those are the people who are listening or viewing them. So how can we reach out to them through a socially responsible social media influencer?
I
That
think
is
in a
what I was
sense,
thinking.
I would go for the podcasters that
Right.
have the good, they have the people generally listen to them because they like information, they like learning new things. And if you also, present it in a way that it's just like a casual conversation, it's not
Hmm.
highly technical and all that, I think people would also realize, you know what, it's not that bad. You learn
Yeah.
something new. Yeah.
And another point that you highlight is the patient advocacy groups, bringing together the campaign through them, which has got a wider reach, definitely. So what are the practical ways of doing it in every country? Say for Philippines, how do you like to do it?
Well, in when this challenge was brought by Dr. Evelyn, so I started reaching out to to the admin, and then I said, hey, you know what? I actually have an existing PowerPoint from an early just so that you're aware that accidents can happen. You're slowly bringing in a lot more. You're doing a lot more volume and all that, right? So now they've reached out, and the same materials that I've shown there that are free, that are downloadable, they're now going to upload and make as a short video loop in the MR waiting area or wherever it is. And then since that is already done, in a sense, they don't have to, their marketing division or whatever it is, that they don't have to come out from scratch, then they can just leverage that into a system. They can reach out to their existing outpatient clinics or to the other hospitals that are affiliated. If it is a network, you're just basically using that same material. So if at some point that AsiaSafe will have their own with a template, with the AsiaSafe logo and all that, then it's easier to, disseminate.
So, Dr. Joyce Chan, we got any more questions?
Yes, thank you very much for the interesting discussion. Just a short comment on the videos that we previously had some minor MR safety issues in a hospital as well. And we also issued a video to be played on loop in all the computers of our hospital, not only the MRI suite, but also all the other administration and also clinical units computers. And we find that a very convenient, actually, we're using the same material. I find it a very convenient means to reach more audience who would someday encounter an MRI study or MRI come close to an MRI machine. So I do think that is a very good means to promote MR safety. So thank you for that. And we have some other questions. Another one also from Dr. Chamry, who is a question, which is a question about multidisciplinary collaboration. So with stronger and stronger MR scanners available, how can we be sure that our safety protocols are up to date for technology changes? And any material being magnetized on higher Tesla that we do not aware of before. Do our speakers have any comment on this? Dr. Ong, seems that there is some connection problem with Dr. Ong.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry, connection's a bit unstable because I'm using a mobile network. So more and more high field MRIs are coming on.
Seems to be some
Yeah, some technical problem
issues
is
with
there. Yeah.
Dr.
Before we're ready Should I stop?
Yeah, you can stop your video and then talk.
Sorry, am I back online?
Yeah,
Yes,
you are.
much better now.
Sorry. I'm running off a mobile network, so it's a bit iffy. So back to higher and higher Tesla. Yes, I think higher and higher Teslas are coming. The vendors are now trying to sell us 7 Tesla MRI scanners, promising us better and better imaging. Which is why I think here comes 2 points or 3 points that we as medics will love better imaging, but the science and physics behind it, it's up to the physicists that will understand it better. So we need to engage them for the research. In terms of hospital administration, that's a role where they have to play, where they have to understand that a lot of these things, we don't fully know what happens when things are brought in. So they need to support us with adequate resources to train and internally and run some trials first before insisting on a higher patient turnaround and throughput to maximize hospital management's main concern, which is financial viability. So I think that's one thing to look at. The other thing I understand is also, while there is a talk about hitting higher and higher clinical higher Tesla machines, there's also another move towards actually keeping and using technology to keep the 1.5 and 3 Teslas with AI algorithms to help with the image reconstruction. Because as you move to higher and higher Tesla, one thing that we tend to forget as medics is that we think images are better, but we forget about the environmental impact on that. So that's one thing we can sell. The higher the Tesla, the more energy and electricity is required to run the machine and to stimulate the coils. And that actually, if you look at the overall hospital energy consumption, it's quite interesting that radiology, especially the MRIs are some of the biggest utilization of electricity, and we can't turn them off.
Mm.
So two ways to look at it. In terms of going green, avoid if possible. That's my personal view. If there's a push for higher quality image and higher Teslas, we just need to be given enough time to train, experiment, and test to see what is safe before rushing through with clinical throughput.
At this point, I would like to bring in our AOSA President, Dr. Chamri, and Professor Dr. Eng Kwan Hung, who has also joined this webinar right now, for the comments on the webinar. And can we have Professor Eng Kwan Hung and Dr. Chamri? Good evening, sir. Thanks for joining. And
Hi, yes.
so you
Thanks
have
very much. You have a very good session. Thanks to the two speakers and just enlightened a lot. Do we have another questions?
do we have authenticated documentation of MR accidents in our region? Does any country have repository of MR accidents? That was a question that from you. Dr. Ma Theresa and Dr. ShaoJin, do you have the authenticated documentation of MR accidents in Philippines and Singapore? Does any country have a repository of MR accidents?
I can speak for the Philippines, we do not have. I think hospitals typically do not want others to know that an incident happened. It may
Right.
be negative press, or it may be because it can be litigious, concern. But we know that we need to do something similar, like with the US, they have the mod, right? So that you can track, well, whatever, if you have contrast related incidents, if you have anything like this it needs to be documented so that people would need to be more, judicious
Right.
about how they are
Right.
doing their practice.
Right.
Not that I know of. And as Dr. Buenaflor said, I think most hospitals would not want to reveal too much. The example I gave earlier of the report from 1 week ago where a patient had an MRI under sedation and fell asleep, I don't think that would have been reported and out in public if it wasn't for the patient going to the press and demanding attention to his issue. Most places would like to try to keep it under wraps while they try to figure out what's going on. That case, I've actually phoned up friends who work there and go, tell me what's going on. So what happened? And I cannot get anything out of anyone.
But that brings in a point that you were discussing, bringing in the multidisciplinary stakeholders of MR safety, the hospital administrators, because to bring in a certain kind of transparency in the whole thing, but will make them more responsible and may insist on the protocols, formation of MR safety committees, appointment of MR medical directors, MR safety officer. All these things can happen if they are also brought into the picture in a right way, in the right perspective. So the multidisciplinary collaboration, encouraging them has got as a call for action point number 4, which we discussed, is bringing in the hospital administrators into the MR safety net. That is essential. That can open up and at the same time reduce a lot of MR accidents too.
I agree. Thank
Yeah.
you, all of you. For the collaboration, one part that I may suggest is our own radiologists. I have a problem discussed the MR safety zone with our radiation oncologist who going to have MR simulation, right? Because in other, and kind of combine technology, bring our diagnostic technology into radiation oncology part. And when one hospital design the room for MR simulation, it's no zone prepared at all. That's a problem. And another part is that another hospital asked me about the PET MR, which I have so difficult in terms of recommendation on, are we going to put the MR in nuclear medicine or nuclear medicine next to MR? And if it's a newly built hospital, may be easier, but the planning for the hospital that already been there and then try to combine this technology is quite challenging in terms of our own radiology collaboration.
True, very true. Dr. Joyce Chan, any more questions we have?
We do have one question from Dr. Evelyn Ho asking about how do you have any suggestions in particular to raise the awareness of MR safety from our referrers, meaning the clinicians, because they usually they would be more aware of the radiation safety and they would choose MR as a safe option and they keep referring and referring. So do you have any particular advice on how to increase the awareness of MR safety in our clinical referrers? Yes, Dr. Ong, please.
So I think one of the things about clinical referrers is the people that will fill in the forms more often than not are the junior doctors that rotate through different hospitals. So one of the key things that has to be done is all of them, when they come to a new hospital, have a hospital orientation. As part of the orientation talks, we almost always tell them about radiation safety, how to deal with radiology, what are the workflows in each local hospitals. And during that, it's also a very good chance to bring in MRI safety. Give them a few interesting images of things that have gone wrong in the past and why it's gone wrong, and then explain this is how their role is as the juniors that are making most of the referrals to help gatekeep for us. Make them feel empowered to speak up against their consultants if they have clinical concerns, and make them feel that we're here to work with them, not to obstruct them. And if that is brought in from a very non-threatening manner during hospital orientation, I think that would make a very big difference in their mindset. They'll be more receptive rather than switch off.
True, wonderful suggestion. Actually, this junior doctors and those who are really writing the filling in the forms, they need to be educated and brought into the picture rather than looking only at the consultants and the head of the departments of other specialities. So that's a very valid point that you have brought in, and
So just a little comment from myself. I do think bringing in the junior doctor is very important as well. For us in Hong Kong Children's, we are one of the teaching hospitals in Hong Kong. So we do have medical students coming for attachment. And we make it a practice that we would tell the students not to be only aware of radiation related to X-rays and CTs. MRI comes with its risk as well. And also the sedation indication for especially in children's, they also come with a risk. So I think if they get the message early on in the student period, it would be even better to further nurture the awareness of safety in their future career. So thank you very much. And I think we don't have any more questions on our chat box. And do we
Right.
have any? Right.
Yeah, I think we had an excellent session by Dr. Ma Theresa Buenaflor and Dr. ShaoJin on the call for action, third and fourth points, that public awareness, how to create it, and how to bring in the multidisciplinary collaboration, rightly pointed out by Dr. ShaoJin. The multiple layers of safety has to be nurtured, and that is the message that we are all we have all understood, and we would like to put them into action. AsiaSafe is a wing of Asian Oceanian Society of Radiology that works on radiation safety and MR safety. And we have we have got a series of webinars coming up on the radiation safety, especially the diagnostic reference levels, and the flyers will be shown to you by the doctor here. And this is the next webinar on July 5.
This is the radiation safety.
Yeah, this is a radiation
Yeah.
safety webinar on 5th July. And I would request Sarita to show the QR code for the attendees to make themselves eligible for the participation certificate. And we are looking forward to your feedback. Please give us the feedback so that we can improve the webinars, and also the sessions that we already had. And these 2 sessions, you can evaluate it and give us your excellent feedbacks for us to improve. If we have no more questions, I think it is time for us to wind up. And I would like to thank the 2 speakers, Dr. Ma Theresa Buenaflor from Philippines and Dr. ShaoJin Ang from Singapore, for the excellent presentations that you made. They've widened and broadened the perspectives on the call for action point number 3, that is how to increase the general public awareness, and also to the 4th point, that is to build in how to encourage multidisciplinary collaborations. Before we wind up, I would like to have our AOSA President, Dr. Chamari, and top AsiaSafe Chair, Professor Kwan Hung Hung, give us their closing remarks.
Okay, I go first. Dr. Ng will be the final one. Okay, thank you very much for everyone, especially a great example on gamification. I love that. And also very scary event that you have shown from many places. Thank you very much, and also the team that helped. We have more looking forward to in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President. And I would now request our AsiaSafe Chair, Emeritus Professor Kwan Hung Ang, to say the final words on this session.
Yeah, my interest in MR gone for a long way back. I was in Aberdeen when we started the prototype, not even commercial yet. And until today, it's amazing to see the technology advancement and the increasing risk. And I'm happy that the AOSR is really on board to promote and ensure MR safety. And this call to action is really in that. And we hope in the future we have many more sessions to come. And at the end, we hope to have the buy-in from the various facilities, various countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was the Chair of AsiaSafe, Emeritus Professor Kwan Hung Ang. And before we wind up, I would also like to express my gratitude to my co-moderator, Dr. Joyce Chan from Hong Kong, and also to the Honorary Secretary of AOSR, Professor Dr. Hemant Patel, who has graced this occasion with the opening remarks. And the MR Safety webinar series will take a break for the next 3 months, and we will be resuming that from October to take up on the other call for point actions. But we don't want to keep idle till that time. We are looking forward for actions. Actually, the whole point of call for action is to drive action. And what are the actions that we are looking for? in the introduction, I already mentioned, have you appointed an MR safety? Have you got an MR safety committee in your institution? Have you appointed an MR medical director as a radiologist and as an MR medical director in your institution? Have you appointed a technologist, MR technologist, as an MR safety officer in your institution? If you have not done that, we are waiting for you to do that before October. And of course, the 4 points that we have discussed so far, increasing the educational initiatives, the modular training modules for the MR medical directors and MR safety officers, and the level 2 employees in the MR safety system, MR system. So how far we have developed that, and have you started the training programs in your department? The increasing the public awareness that we have mentioned about in the first series, we have mentioned about the development of apps, because a lot of apps can make, and today Dr. Theresa has mentioned about how can we gamify the whole process, virtual MR facilities, and how all this can be a gamified models can be created. So we are looking forward for more and more creativity from our delegates, from the radiologists, from technologists, and from all those who have been associated with MR safety on this in this interim period of 3 months. And when we come back in October, we would like to hear from you that this is what we did in our center, and this is what is possible, and this is the social media activities that we did, or this is the app that we developed, and these are the educational initiatives that we did in our institution. We would like to have your feedbacks on it. Please write to us to ASR. And thank you all once again. I would also like to express my gratitude to Dr. Evelyn Ho, our past president, for coordinating these sessions in a wonderful way, and to the Vidocto team for the technical support. With that, we are signing off. Goodbye and good night.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. With your permission, I'm closing the session.
Yeah, please.